everybody? Welcome to LockPod Season 10, Episode 20, the Midwest's Most Dangerous Podcast. Today,
welcome back.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Post-Veterans Day trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more of like a...
Where a
I don't
whoa.
think you're on. I don't think you're on, babe.
You're on, but you're not on.
I think it was more
There
of
she
like
is.
a happy birthday, Marissa, happy anniversary, and then Veterans Day trip.
I
Yeah.
prioritize Veterans Day a little higher in that
Oh,
three.
okay.
I'll be honest
Oh,
with you.
man.
Wow.
I
I'm
think
going to tell
Veterans Day is
Marissa.
important. I mean, you're minimizing my 6 years of my life defending our country, against Russians, nuking us.
And other
I'm out there busting my ass, and you prioritize it third.
enemies,
out of
foreign and domestic.
third out of three. What the hell, Lindsay?
Yeah, well,
6
okay.
years. 6 years.
I'm going to say the birth of Marissa was pretty significant.
Happy birthday, Marissa.
Yeah.
And happy anniversary, Tom and Marissa.
Yeah.
And happy Veterans Day, Tom.
What the hell? Third?
Well,
See?
I'm trying to stay on
That's how
Marissa's
Kevin
good side.
Trying
Trying to
to
stay on-
that's bullshit.
I like to
Third?
stay on the judge's good
I'd say
side.
happy Veterans Day. Happy birthday, Marissa. Happy anniversary. Third,
Tom
right?
and Marissa. Yeah.
All right, whatever.
Well,
Sure.
welcome back.
Today's episode brought to you by Tortillas Nuevo Leon, which is where I'm taking Marissa for our birthday dinner.
Where?
Tortillas Nuevo Leon.
That's not a restaurant.
They serve it at El Taco.
All right, fair
Yeah.
enough.
I'm taking her to the factory.
We're going, yeah.
We're gonna watch these tortillas run off this line.
We're going to shove these tortillas into our mouths.
It's the best date ever. You just grab pico de gallo at the store on the way, and you just go there and just chow. Tortilla de Nuevo Leon sets the gold standard in Mexican cuisine across the Midwest. Look for their iconic red and white label at your local grocery store. Discover the flavor of Tortillas Nuevo Leon.
Our episode
Okay.
sponsor.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. That's where I'm taking Marissa.
Yeah, tonight. You ready, baby?
So birthday's today.
No.
No,
Oh,
It was,
it's the 9th.
happy
Yeah.
belated.
yeah, we, my anniversary was yesterday, technically, and I took Kevin out to dinner.
Wow.
Did it?
That was
Did
weird.
it happen?
Did he get lucky?
We're not
Yep.
talking about that, John.
Yep.
It was all about tortillas Nuevo Leon. So
Yeah.
it's all.
Like, Marissa and I had 5 days together, I think. Even though technically yesterday was our anniversary, I think we'd pretty
At that
much.
point, they
How-
were sick of each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like,
yeah.
I'm just gonna go out and pre-show.
She's like, it's our anniversary. I'm like, I'm taking Kevin out. She's like, fine. That's fine. Have fun.
How was the weather?
It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to Lisa Burdine's daughter's wedding, too, which is nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Alexis, she married, Ashton.
And Alexis used to be I think
Asher
she used to be a TV reporter, right?
She is a TV reporter.
Is a TV reporter.
I was with all of her TV reporter buddies, and we were all hanging
I
out.
thought she put
Did
that
you
in the
get
rearview
interviewed?
mirror.
I was talking smack to him the whole time. I'm like, these fucking. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking I was on DLB or something. So I was like calling him names and saying they're
Wow.
gonna be quoting me. It
Look
was
at
funny.
you.
I was
Going
having a
after the
good time.
press.
I was having a good time with them. They were funny. They were really talented young people. It was cool to see.
Yeah.
They all went to Cronkite.
Was that
School
the
of
reason you went out
Journalism.
to there?
No, it's coincidental how it worked out. Marissa and I went out because of Veterans Day, of course,
Of course.
and then her birthday, and then our anniversary. That was the
And then
the
there just
purpose
happened
of
to be
it.
a wedding?
By the way, I won a 6th term in there too. Like,
Whoa.
Not that that's a big deal.
Right.
Congratulations.
Oh, sorry to remind you guys. Shit, the other day on your show, it took like an hour for you guys.
Did
to
I
Unopposed.
did I make sure
You,
to say
yeah,
it?
you did. But like
You
every
were unopposed.
every
okay?
swinging, politician in Indiana got recognized, and they're like, "Oh shit, McDermott won too."
Trust me, if your friend Kevin didn't bring it up, it wouldn't have been brought
Well,
up.
I know. One of my my chief of staff's in there.
He didn't bring it up.
He did not bring it up. He thanked
It wasn't
everybody.
even-
He was going through like Lake Station councilmen. I'm like, what the, I won too, Phil.
No kidding.
Right.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, I noticed
You
that.
have a job because of me, Phil.
I noticed that. Believe me. We'll be talking about it later, Phil. You know what I'm saying?
You mean the former chief of staff?
Yeah, right.
He's now the kennel master or something.
Hey, man. Kennel
Hey,
masters
they
are
make
important.
good. That's right.
Every position is important, John.
Agree.
Even,
Agree.
Release the hounds.
Check this out,
There's a
though.
title.
I took a Whammo driverless taxi.
What?
Yeah.
We've been talking about
You sound
driverless
shocked.
cars.
I tried to. They're
Well,
all
I didn't-
over. First
John,
off,
I
they're
thought they
all
weren't
over.
in Arizona. I didn't know they were in Arizona. Actually, that's why
They're
I was
all
kind of
over
surprised.
Arizona. They're crazy. Like, no driver. No drives by. It's good.
Because we reported on a previous episode that California was pulling back the licenses
Yeah.
because of problems they had.
California and Arizona are different places.
I agree, but I didn't know. I didn't even realize. I didn't realize Arizona even had them.
They do.
Because not all states have them.
Dude,
for
they're all
example.
over. They're
Indiana
annoying.
does not.
They're annoying, actually.
Was this your first time?
Yeah, it's my first time seeing them. And then Marissa and I got done at Camelback because we did tail to head. So, like,
Opposite way.
Excuse me?
Is that a sex position? What is that?
Happy anniversary,
our
Marissa.
anniversary.
We're doing tail to head today.
tail to head. She knows what that means. No, we did Camelback. It was that's like a 3.5 mile, but it's high. And we did tail to head, so we start one place and end in another. So our car is way at the beginning, and we weren't walking back there. We were exhausted.
So how did these driverless cars arrive? Like, how do you get
They know
one?
where your phone is because the phone's on you. So I hailed it through Uber, and it said, "Do you care if a Waymo driverless taxi picks you
Wow,
up?" And
okay.
I was like, "Hell no, I don't care. That sounds cool." So I was like, "Yeah," and it comes pulling up, wink, and it stops right in front of us, and 2 people get out. And Marissa and I are like, "This is so cool,
So weird.
So we jump in. We're the only 2 in there, and it was like tweaking out. It didn't know what to do because it was weird because it's Waymo and I'm on Uber, right?
Okay.
And somehow
They don't
the
talk.
translation, it was like Chinese to Japanese. They're
Well,
like,
you would think you're not the only
I
person
know,
doing that.
and I'm like, so Marissa and I were sitting in there for like a minute and a half, and then I was like, I pushed tech support, and then we start talking to some dude in like India.
Here's the
So
video.
like,
Here's the little. Is that the? So this is inside the Waymo.
yeah,
Can't you just?
That is so weird having no driver.
yeah, we're at Trailhead at Camelback here. And like
Oh.
Marissa's looking at me, she was very skeptical the whole time. She was
I'm
like,
with her.
"Why don't we get a driver?" And I was like,
Look, it
"No,
says
this
please
is-"
exit now.
I was like, "This is a good bit for Lockpod." So like, we could die in a fiery crash, but it's good Lockpod material, you know.
You know, you could have just.
Should we
gotten
like
into the front
reboot and like
seat.
Get out and get back in?
Reboot.
No, we were
Steven,
talking-
can you tell me the email address used in your Waymo app?
Jeez,
Tom,
like,
Tom
that's
McD
crazy.
3469 at yahoo.com.
Send them emails.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
We just played my email address last.
This is
time.
definitely the car. It said it was 250 feet away. And
You're
then
like
it pulled
talking
up.
to like a.
All right, we can stop it here. I'm probably gonna get my credit card details in a second.
Wait, so are you like talking to a live person or is that a robot?
Yeah, no, I was talking to a live person.
Robot.
But like he's like, "Dude, there's a problem because you're Uber," and I'm like, "You freaking asked me if you could come here
Through Uber.
through Uber," and he's like, "Yeah, but I don't know if we're ready for
Then
that."
it says
yet."
vehicle approaching. I don't know.
No, because there was cars driving by us. Marissa and I were there for like a couple minutes, but
Wait, so did you complete the ride? And
no,
Waymo?
we got out, and then some
Did you
nice
walk
gentleman
back?
drove us to the
You're
beginning.
kidding.
No.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy was really nice too. So this really nice kid was sitting there talking to a cop, and Marissa's nice, and I'm not, of course. So like, Marissa walks up to the cop, and she's like talking to him, and this guy is like, "I'll drive you guys back." He's like
What a
local.
nice fella.
And he drives us back, and I'm like, "Please take money." And I'm trying to give him money, and he won't take it. He was just a nice guy, and
Nice
he was a
dude.
deadhead, by the way. I was wearing my dead shirt.
Sure.
So
You
he's
knew
like,
you
"I'm
were
a
safe.
deadhead." He's like, "I'm a deadhead." So
Yeah,
like,
deadhead
by the
looks out
way,
for
this
each
is
other.
a lesson to fellow deadheads. Wear your shit, right?
Mhm.
Because like this guy's like, "Dude, you're my guy." So he drives us to the beginning, and I try to give him $10, and he's like, "Nope." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna give this $10 to somebody." He's like, "Just pick somebody, give him $10." I'm like, "Okay."
And?
I went and got a haircut, and I gave the guy like a massive tip,
Nice.
like a $20 total tip. I would normally give him 10. I gave him 20, and this dude's
See?
like, "Whoa."
Pay it forward, Tom.
I did. That's a good strategy. You know, we should do like Lockpod Friday. We should do like Pay It Forward Friday.
Oh.
And then everybody that listens just as a nice deed for people. Wouldn't that be nice?
We'll put it in
Well,
chat.
you know, there is a day around that Thanksgiving called Giving Tuesday where we have a show that day.
Oh, really? I didn't know that's what it meant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Giving Tuesday. It's like the Tuesday.
Oh, you're
what
supposed
is
to
it?
donate
Right after or
to
right before
charitable-
Thanksgiving. So next week, and then I'll look into it. But
Melissa, like, I think is a good thing. By the way, and I paid it forward, and I could tell you, the dude that I gave a $20 tip to was like, "Whoa." He was a cool dude, too. And then, like, I guarantee you, I didn't tell him to pay it forward, but, like, that's a nice thing. It really is. That guy was just
course.
super sweet, and he made sure to tell me. He's like, "Just do me a favor. Instead of giving me $10, just do something nice for somebody today."
Sounds
And I
like
went
a
and did it.
Deadhead.
And- but it was
That's-
freaking awesome, man. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He
So
didn't want it. He didn't need it, but he gave you a ride, and you made a day. You made someone's day. What else happened in Arizona, if anything?
So we Camelback. We
Yeah, I
did.
got some pictures here.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And then I did Tom Thumb by myself. And
Tom
then-
Thumb.
Yeah.
it's his thumb.
Where's that?
It's
Right
it's the
here.
middle one.
That's
Green
it.
shirt. That's me at the very, very tip top. Like
I've
and
done
then
that one.
I
It's
had
good.
lunch by myself there. Subway sandwich. It was funny. Some guy comes up. He goes, "There's a Subway up here," and I go, "Yeah, right around the corner." It was so funny. It was a perfect question.
That's awesome.
I was like, "Yeah, right around the corner. You can't miss it."
So, usually, at least I know when we've been hiking out in Arizona, you kind of stay away from midday because it's so damn hot.
No,
was that
it
the
was
situation?
perfect. It was like 81.
Oh
in
my
the
gosh!
midday.
So you could go any time.
I
of
went
the
at
day.
like 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, that's
It was
great.
perfect. That was right there, sunrise. I took you on that one, Kevin. That's a
Yep,
good one.
I've been on that
That's
one.
Marissa and I at the top of that. So I did 3 peaks in 3 days. I was exhausted.
Good hike. Though.
And then I'm
Good
trying
hikes.
to think, oh, check this out. So it was a really nice place we were staying. Okay. Like I pimped out because it was,
Veterans
it's Veterans Day. Right? So like I pimped out, right? And then Marissa, you know, it was her birthday also, so I got a nice place and our anniversary and blah blah blah. But so it was a super nice place. And normally I splurged a little bit. We had our own little unit, right? It was like a little cottage on the grounds of a nice hotel, right? And then so I'm going. It was like a 10-minute walk back to the cars because I'm too cheap to valet. And I'm walking back. It was like $80 a night to valet there, and I'm like, I'll walk.
Yeah.
I'm like able.
Splurge on the room. We'll
Right.
park for free.
I'll walk back and forth, no big deal, right? So I'm walking back, and I made sure to pick up my bride. You know, I'm not a jerk, right? I'll do the walking myself, and I'm walking back. I walk right through the freaking Los Angeles Lakers, and I don't know shit about basketball, Kevin. You know that,
Yeah.
But I do know LeBron James is on that team, so I'm like peeled looking for the one person that I know on the team. Walks right past me. I'm like, oh my God! I call Marissa. Freaking Lakers are here, and then they all went in their rooms and hid, right? So the next morning I wake up and I'm going to the car to get the car because Marissa and I are going to Camelback. And I walk out with my Lakers shirt on because I'm like,
Your
I have my
Lakers
Lakers
dead
dead
shirt
shirt, right?
That's pretty funny.
I
Did you
know
do that? You didn't do that
I
on
love
purpose?
that shirt. I love that shirt. I didn't know they were going to be
I think
there.
you actually in one of the photos you had it on. So
It was
yeah.
Camelback.
Yep.
Because
okay.
we were going to Camelback, but I'm going to get the car. And I walk out of my room, and LeBron James is stretching right outside my window. Like, he's sitting there with the security guard stretching. I'm like, dude, that's LeBron James. So I call Marissa, and we come out, and we snap a picture of him real quick.
Yeah.
And his security guard comes up and starts, like, getting on me.
Whoa.
What's wrong with that?
Because he thinks I'm, like, fanboy, because I got a Lakers thing.
Oh.
And I'm like taking a picture of him. He's like, "Hey, you can't be here." I'm like, "Dude, this is my room. Like, what are you talking about? You're in my room,
Yeah,
asshole.
you should be
Get
out of here."
LeBron in his own room, and then nobody will be taking pictures.
And I'm
going
going
to
to go stretch down there.
Jag
and he
off.
can take pictures of me.
Right? And then LeBron wasn't saying anything. He was just stretching.
Yeah.
And this guy's being a total dick. And I'm like, "Fucking screw you, buddy. I'm a freaking deadhead hanging out in my room. I happen to have a Lakers shirt on. I don't give a shit about your sport." So I'm walking by, and another one of the guys was walking out. He saw it. He's like, "I'll take a picture with you, man." And I took
Oh,
a
that's
picture.
cool.
They were cool, man. They were really nice. And by the
Very
way,
nice.
the OKC Thunder,
Yes.
next day. It's
Must be the
this is
place to
where-
stay.
Yeah, the NBA team
When
stay
I
there.
so weird enough, I was on an anniversary trip in Chicago, and we were staying at the Peninsula,
Yeah.
and I walked out of my room, and each of the room had Lakers bags there.
No
right in front.
way.
Yeah. So that must be this hotel they stay at in Chicago.
Look at you, pimp.
Not as pimp as you, dude.
Oh, yeah?
I was just in Chicago on a.
I honestly think LeBron was in one of the units right by me.
Yeah, I bet.
I didn't know which one.
I
But
bet he was. I bet
Because
all
it
the
made
Lakers
sense.
were.
Because Marissa and I, we had our own little patio. It was like a private little area
Yeah.
on a nice hotel ground. But like you could literally like go in your own little area, backyard. So like I could see why the NBA teams stay there. They could literally.
Sure.
It's like a private area.
Comfortable.
You could like sit in the
nice.
backyard and nobody will mess with you because it's a private area. So like I could see why they stay there. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I was doing some research when I was out there on doing a lot of reading, a lot of sleeping, a lot of hiking. But this whole thing going on in Oregon with the decriminalization of drugs, have you guys followed this story at all?
We talked about it on a previous episode about the fact that they were going to do it. Or
Well,
that
they did
were-
this a few years ago. I want to say in 2021.
Okay.
Okay. Have you followed this at all, John?
No.
Linz?
A little bit.
So they legalized everything. They decriminalized everything. Not legalized. They decriminalized fentanyl, like pills, heroin,
No matter what.
everything, LSD. Every drug you can imagine is decriminalized. So
I
you
read
could
that-
do fentanyl in the street, and a cop could see you, and they can't do anything.
I read that Oregon was the first state ever to decriminalize the possession of marijuana. Guess
It
what
was
year?
like the 70s. 71?
73.
Yeah,
I had no idea that a state decriminalized the possession of marijuana.
decriminalized,
And-
but it wasn't legalized.
Correct.
So you could smoke weed there
Sure.
in the 70s
Right.
and not get arrested.
Correct.
Weed,
73.
right.
That's
But do you agree, though, Kevin, there's like a difference between, I mean, this is such a stupid question,
Yeah.
and I know what you're going to say.
Okay.
but there's obviously a difference between weed and fentanyl and
yeah, I mean
pills and
absolutely
heroin.
right. I mean, I'd say one, obviously we've talked about this, and actually Dr. Freud, who's been on before, is like, look, marijuana is a plant.
Right.
And fentanyl and all this
Is a
other
chemical.
shit is a chemical. I mean, I don't know if cocaine's natural in its natural state.
But you just said
But
something, too. You said
heroin-
Dr. Forite and
Yeah.
marijuana. Like, I know doctors that do marijuana. I know lawyers. I know famous people. Like, good people. I know shitheads that do it, too, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I know the full spectrum of people. But, like, I think if you're approaching heroin status, these heavy drugs like that, I don't see too many doctors, lawyers, elected officials, and stuff like that doing heroin or fentanyl or
Marijuana probably always was and is, I think, more considered. I don't want kind of a recreation. I mean, I don't know what you call it. Like it's more of
it's a plant.
Yeah, I mean, it's a plant. I mean, it's obviously more accepted, Maybe like, right? I don't think like anyone's like, oh, he's smoking weed versus like, oh, he's shooting up heroin. Like those are kind of two different conversations.
Wait, they legalize what again?
They
Everything.
decriminalized
Decriminalized everything.
Decriminalized.
Not legalized.
Right.
They decriminalized.
Decriminalized.
Everything?
So, yes, everything.
Oh my!
They did this a couple years ago. And like
I thought it
naturally,
was just like shrooms.
so like think about this. Like when Colorado and California, if I remember correctly, legalized marijuana, and they had a huge tourist boom. I think because I know where Kevin's going with this, right? People like myself were like, I'm going skiing in Colorado this year, right? So you go to Colorado, you stand in line for an hour at a dispensary, buy weed legally, and it was like the biggest, craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life because you spend your whole life hiding weed, and then all of a sudden a state like Colorado legalizes it. Everybody in America goes there and experiences that for the first time in their life, right?
Right.
And now it's natural, and I think the tourism has dropped.
Well,
But-
sure, because there's 30 states now, right? But like, take about Oregon, for example, right? So if I'm like a meth addict or a heroin addict, why wouldn't I move to Oregon? Or like, I like hang out on the street.
You don't think about this before you pass this law, Oregon? So, like, if you're a total fucking junkie, I'm like a freaking heroin addict. I'm a fentanyl addict. You're like, I'm moving to Oregon. It's legal. It's decriminalized.
Hello,
there.
Eugene.
I could freaking shoot up right in front of a jewelry store, and it's no big deal,
And
right?
it's probably maybe more accessible, or maybe it's easier to get, or
But
like
a
you
jewelry
don't have to-
store
you know,
has like an awning. I don't have to worry about getting rained on there. It's not that cold, right?
yeah. I mean, if you ever, I mean, you could think that this would be attractive to junkies.
And it is.
Yeah.
They have experienced a surge in homelessness, a surge in overdoses, a surge in just lawlessness, and an amazing stat. So like the liberal ideology behind this decriminalization effort was, instead of taking little Johnny that's shooting up there in front of your store and putting him in jail, why don't we say, little Johnny, why don't you go get some counseling, little Johnny? You got a sickness, little Johnny. Go get some counseling.
Yeah. So the way this was set up is that they would you have two choices. You either can get a ticket and pay $100, or you can call a number and get some addiction counseling and services for addiction. The problem is they wrote 6,000 tickets and only 92 people have called.
Oh my!
And people aren't paying the ticket. So the police aren't even bothering writing the tickets anymore. I mean, this is the
That's
problem.
like asking police to write tickets that aren't enforced. We did that for a long time in Indiana, where police would give tickets to stop trains, and the trains would never pay them.
No.
And guess what happens after a while? The officers are like, why the
Why
hell
am I wasting my time?
I'm writing hundreds of tickets and nothing ever happens with them. So what happens? The officers say, I'm going to stop writing these tickets.
Overdoses have fatal overdoses in Oregon during the 12 months that ended in May rose 23% from the same period a year earlier to 1,500. That's the third highest increase in the nation, behind Washington and Nevada.
This was a Wall Street Journal article yesterday. It was fascinating. But basically what this story is going, what Kevin said is they didn't anticipate all the people that would move there to get high in their streets and like not get arrested.
That, and I think just people in general are like, well, let me try this. And next thing you know, you're an addict. And next
You've
thing
been
you know,
to Amsterdam, right, Kev?
I've not been to Amsterdam.
I remember going to Amsterdam when I was in the Navy. And the one thing I remember about Amsterdam is also everything was decriminalized there and legal. And I remember just seeing people strung out everywhere I went. I do remember that about Amsterdam. And that, to me, sounds like Oregon right now.
Yeah, and I think actually in Oregon they're going back to potentially recriminalizing it. They said they're going to try to do a fix this year in the legislature. I thought this was interesting in the article. A 56-year-old Grateful Dead fan who has experimented with mind-altering substances. This woman long supported liberalizing Oregon's drug laws to be more like those of the Netherlands, but as she watched public drug use flourish, she feared she had voted the wrong way. There's constant problems all over town. It doesn't matter where you live with people strung out on drugs. I pride myself on being a bit cynical, but obviously I was very naive. So,
Yep.
I mean, it seems to be a failed experiment.
Yep.
So
anyway,
we'll see what happens.
Go visit Oregon.
Yep. If you're a junkie,
Shoot up heroin in front of a jewelry store.
do
no
some
big
fentanyl.
deal.
Do some lines of coke on the sidewalk.
No consequences.
Get a ticket.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Can't believe-
$100.
Dude, that's a perfect example of groupthink right there. Everybody's just like, yeah, this was great. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Somebody's shooting up in front of my house. It's like, yeah, it's legal. How
See.
do you like that there, Joe? You voted yes.
Yeah, 58%. It's interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in the legislature this year. We'll follow this, bro. We'll follow this story.
Yeah, we will. So let's move on. We're going to come back and blow your mind a little bit with a conspiracy case that's going on in Indiana that is threatening to take down some of the most powerful elected officials in the state of Indiana. And I have a unique insight in it because I was sort of calling it out while it was happening. Kevin and I were when we were at WJOB on our previous life on a radio show, and I think it might have been the precipitating factor of why I no longer had that radio show. So we're gonna blow your minds when you come back. We have a unique insight that nobody else in Indiana can talk about except for us right here on Lockpod. So make sure you come back after the break. In the meantime, let's go ahead and do some ads. Again, today's episode is brought to you by Tortillas Nuevo Leon. We also have a great sponsor, Empowering Indiana, who we love very much. IBEW Local 697 and NECA proudly introduced Powering Indiana, Lake County. With over a century of experience, they've been safely wiring the region. From powering corporations along the lakefront to lighting up homes across the region, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your trusted source for electrical professionals. Visit 697jatc.org to join us as we continue to light the way for Northwest Indiana.
All right, elevate your brand with Misprint, the premier printing and sign solution in Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. With a 30-year legacy of excellence, their experienced team, led by Rick Balsenberger, combines innovation and technology to deliver top-quality signs and printing, always on time and within budget. Visit them at misprintusa.com to bring your vision to life today. Misprint, your partner for creating impactful visual solutions.
Cantrell and Cantrell, attorneys at law. When you're facing legal challenges or injuries, they're here to guide you through the process. Their dedicated team, including John and Kristen Cantrell, are in court and at the jail every day, ready to fight for your rights to party. Call John Cantrell at 219-554-4LAW or visit their website at bettercallcantrell.com and discover how they can make a difference in your case. Thanks to John for being on the show on Friday. He was great.
Yeah.
Always great. Always bringing the show down to a new level.
Calumet Brewing. Bush Light, the coldest and smoothest light lager, is calling you to embrace the great outdoors, the roar of NASCAR, and the joy of cracking a cold one. Celebrate life's moments with the Bush Light, and then head over to Cal Brew on Facebook or Instagram for a chance to win a Bush Light Igloo Cooler. Visit Bush.com and their social media pages for exciting updates and events. Head for the mountains of Bush Light and enjoy beers and cheers responsibly.
Thank you to our sponsors, including our episode sponsor, Tortillas Nuevo Leon.
All right. Kevin and I are going to talk about a story, and we're going to get to a certain point, and we're going to stop talking about it because we're not going to get sued. We made that deal yesterday.
We did.
We're not going to get sued today.
We're not going to get sued.
Okay. But we're gonna take it to a certain point, and then we're going to stop because this story ain't going away, and we're going to be able to comment as this story continues.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing I'd remind everybody is, and we talked about this in the Trump case down in Georgia, conspiracies are multifaceted. And a lot of times, very astute prosecutors have a plan as to how they're going to move forward with the prosecution of a conspiracy, including how to pick off people and have them plead guilty, and then eventually put a lot of pressure on those that may be at the top of the conspiracy.
So if we're talking like the mob, right? Yeah. So usually they would find the low-level mobster,
the street
and they
dude,
would get them to flip, and we get the lower-level guys to all flip, and their ultimate goal was the top mobster,
right?
Because
a lot of times when you, most time actually, when you plead guilty to, let's say, federal charges or conspiracy charge or anything like that, one of the agreements is that you agree to number one, testify truthfully if the information you give to the prosecutors, and secondly, you also agree to help the prosecution and testify against your co-conspirators.
Right.
So, and that's happening in Georgia. That's what some of the stuff, we'll talk about that next episode, but.
So there was not an indictment.
No.
A Republican elected official who I've known for about 15 years agreed to plead guilty to charges nobody even knew were facing him, right?
Yeah, interesting, right? So Sean Eberhardt, who used to represent parts of
Shelbyville.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you call that? Like kind of East Central Indiana, right? Shelbyville area, which is, I'm just giving people that are listening know what Shelbyville is.
Right.
East of Indy.
Yeah, right.
Right, East of Indy, southeast of Indy.
Right.
Okay. So Sean Eberhardt, I mean, when Tom and I knew him, and Tom knew him better than I did, but we all knew him, he was in he's leadership in the Republican Party.
Well, when I first met him, that's when I first met him. He was brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Him and I went to the Super Bowl together. And he was a Republican legislator, and I was a Democratic mayor, and
he rose up in the ranks.
I hit it off with him though. At that time, I thought he was really cool. He liked me, and we had common friends, and we became friends over the years. Not like good friends, but just friends. We knew each other. We experienced a moment together. We went to the Super Bowl. The Colts lost, by the way. They did, but like it was nice. It was a nice trip. I got to meet nice people. Sean Eberhardt was one of them, and so like I'm the kind of guy. If I'm your friend in politics, I'm straight up your friend. I don't play games. I don't give a shit what people say to me. Give you an example. Matt Murphy in Valparaiso, Republican mayor. When he was running for mayor, I was asked repeatedly by Democrats in Valpo to get behind him and help him and give him advice, and I couldn't do it because I know Matt, man. Matt's my friend. It's like, dude, like this is like personal, right? Like I know the mayor, and I can't do that to him, right? So I always expect people to treat me the same way, and it doesn't happen ever, actually. It doesn't, because Eberhardt,
two-way street.
I always thought Eberhardt was my bud, and he never really acted like my bud
When the votes came to
never.
Yeah.
He was a soldier for the Republican Party. And I took it personally. So over the years, this guy I thought was my friend.
kind of chipped away at the friendship.
Not even kind of. It did chip away at the friendship. Because I'm like, fuck you, man. Like, you know, you're my buddy. And then every time you walk into the General Assembly, you freaking stick a knife in my back. It's like, dude, right? Like, my buddy's supposed to be my buddy regardless. At least, like, watch out for me. But you're, like, not even playing the game. You're just, like, one of the soldiers screwing me personally. Because at that time, there was a lot of pointed stuff at me. Because
of different legislation.
Right. And it seemed
positions
like
you were
a lot of
taking
times
and-
Hammond was getting focused on by the General Assembly, and he was part of the focus.
So fast forward, and all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, Sean Eberhardt, like kind of out of nowhere, just resigns.
That was last year. I was stunned.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, why? First off, he'd been in the General Assembly for 10 plus years. He was in leadership.
Yes, he was head of different committees.
He was
Important
the big
committees.
and gaming was one of them.
House Committee on Public Policy, which oversees gaming matters.
And he's in the super majority. He's a leader. He's well liked, and they're in charge of the state of Indiana. You
Yeah.
work your whole damn life to get into that position. So Sean comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm retiring at the end of this session." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Congrats." And we shook hands, and like I didn't know him that well at that point. We'd known each other for a long time, but we weren't buddies like we were at the time, right? And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I was thinking to myself, that's extremely unusual. Like, who quits in the middle of the glory days? You know what I'm saying? You work your whole career to get here, and all of a sudden he just up and quits. Well, it makes a lot more sense today.
Yeah, we found out late last week, Hannah News, Indiana, as well as the Indy Star broke a story that indicated that Sean Eberhardt, former Republican state rep, was going to agree to plead guilty to conspiracy. And what that means is just kind of a little procedural situation is in federal court, you usually have to be charged through an indictment, which means a grand jury indicts you. There are some instances where you can waive that, and you can plead guilty by way of information, so you don't have a grand jury. And in this instance, Sean Eberhardt, through his attorney, signed a piece of paper that said, I agree to plead guilty to conspiracy. And it didn't really lay out a lot, but as kind of the days have gone on, more information has surfaced over what that was about. And so he hasn't officially pled guilty yet. He said he's agreed to with the federal government, and they're going to have kind of a hearing in the future to solidify that.
So, Kevin, let's go back to, because there's another guy, and it's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're talking about now, named John Keeler, who was a former state rep. He's also part of this group. Hung out with Eberhardt, hung out at the Winter Circle, which was an area where a lot of Republicans hung out.
Off-track betting facility
It was an
downtown
area.
Indy.
It was like a political hangout for Republican upper echelon people, right? Literally, they would go in there and they would cook up deals.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, anytime I was in there, I was invited.
I was
and
invited one
it was
time. You were with
to
me, right?
have some drinks.
You were
and-
with me that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I never saw anyone cook up deals. I just was in there, had a couple drinks. We talked to people, said hello.
I was at
atmosphere.
the table. Rod Radcliffe was there. Eberhardt was there. Keeler was there. These two both get indicted. I was at a table. It was like probably 10, 15 people at this table. Kevin was there. And Radcliffe was telling war stories. And I
Yeah.
thought he was charming.
And I think he was
and
the owner
smart.
of the place.
He was.
Yeah.
But he was telling war stories like
He was
going
holding
way back.
court, basically.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like we called them sea stories when I was in the Navy. This guy was like telling stories about the General
It's
Assembly.
very interesting.
Keeping you
I love-
captivated.
yeah,
No, he was a
I'd love
storyteller.
listening to it,
I
yeah.
was like, first off, my impression of Radcliffe when I left that day is this guy is smart as hell. He knows everybody. He knows everything about the General Assembly. He's incredibly smart, powerful, intelligent. And I was the Democratic table with Kevin, so we were like the outsiders. But it was interesting to see that side of the world, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was.
We were
I
like
mean,
totally on the other team, like watching how they operate, and I was like, "Damn, like that's pretty cool."
A literal smoke-filled room, right?
Right.
A lot of cigars.
Literally a
and things like
smoke-filled room, but that was not our room. But that was the room where I think a lot of people that were in that room are getting indicted right now.
Well, and again, I want to be clear that Sean Eberhardt wasn't indicted, but he agreed to plead guilty, and there hasn't been any other indictments in that case yet. But I think, again, going to what we talked about conspiracies, is conspiracies are not one person thing. You can't have a conspiracy with yourself. you need multiple people, which means that
it's a concert of people working together towards an illegal act.
Correct. You've agreed to do something with somebody else that is an illegal act. And
so, like, if you and I are in a conspiracy and I kill somebody, you could get charged with murder, right?
So right.
If we're involved in an illegal act together and I kill somebody, even though you didn't even have a gun, you could get charged with murder.
If it's in furtherance of the conspiracy,
right.
yes.
Right. We're robbing a bank.
Sure.
Kevin doesn't even have a gun in his pocket, right?
Right.
I shoot somebody, but Kevin's the getaway driver. The getaway driver gets charged with murder, even though they were in the car, right?
That's right.
That's a conspiracy.
Felony murder, right?
So I'm going to get to where we wanted to go, and then we're going to knock off for today because this story ain't going away.
Yes. So
Kevin, we said earlier.
Yes, not going away. We're going to continue following this.
That usually conspiracy cases are about peeling the layer of the onions away, right? And they get these lower level people to flip so that they'll testify. And you see it going on with the Trump case, right? We see it going on with this case as well. In my opinion, I have no knowledge whatsoever of this case. I don't talk to the federal government. I don't talk to people familiar with what's going on with this. This is just me. I read a ton of newspaper and I know things because I see things with my eyes. So between the combination of reading and knowing, I think that I can make educated guesses.
Yeah, and I think the information we're going to continue to talk about probably on Friday especially is kind of give a little bit of the history of this whole thing and talk about how this all went down. But like what former Representative Eberhardt is going to plead guilty to is that he was promised future employment at a casino company for a compensation of at least $350,000 in exchange for using his elected position to assist the company in relocating to casinos. So
and he did that. And Representative Eberhardt was instrumental in saving that company $80 million.
And I think that's the big, to me, that's the thing.
The
it's like, and I think those are the facts that I think we want to get into as we kind of move forward in this. You want to stop there, or do you want to keep going?
I guess that, in your opinion, is Eberhardt the target?
No, because they've already got him, and it's
and
a
we know
conspiracy.
Keeler also got it. It's a conspiracy. So.
Although I don't know if Keeler was charged as part of this. It doesn't.
No.
It may be totally different.
But he's charged.
Yeah, charged convicted
and cooperating.
I assume.
Right.
Yes.
So you got Keeler cooperating. You got Eberhardt
former lobbyist
charged and cooperating.
State representative.
So who's the target here?
Well, I mean, interestingly, so the only thing I would say,
in your opinion, 100% opinion. We don't know anything factually, but in my opinion, Kevin, I think it's obvious that the target is Rod Radcliffe, the casino owner, the one that swung this whole deal. Very powerful person, and if I were close to Rod Radcliffe, I'd probably be really nervous right now.
Here's what I would say that was in the articles, and this was something I read. It said Eberhardt sent text messages regarding his efforts to secure legislation in favor of the company, and we'll talk about the company at some other time, saying he would, quote, make it right for, end quote, the founder of Spectacle, identified only in court documents as Individual A. The U.S. Attorney's Office did not immediately respond when asked whether Individual A is also under investigation or will face charges.
The thing is, if Rod is the target, dude, now we can talk in future shows about who else that could potentially implicate. If Rod Radcliffe is the target of the FBI investigation, dude, there's a lot of politicians in Indiana currently that are extremely close to Rod Radcliffe. Let me tell you something. Like, this could be an absolute nuclear bomb that goes off in Indiana. If this is going where they're saying. If Rod Radcliffe is the target, this is a nuclear bomb with a clock ticking down.
Yeah, and I think, obviously we want to be real careful because, no one's been accused of anything. No one's pled guilty to anything. There haven't been any other indictments.
This is
and
opinion.
Anything, yeah,
this is
anything
opinion based off of reading. I am speculating based off of all the documents that I read in the public record, Kevin. Mm-hmm. And I know things in my head because I meet these people and I know how they operate. So the combination of these two things leads me to believe we have a nuclear weapon with a clock ticking down on it in Indiana politics right now.
It's going to be very interesting to see how the onion gets peeled back.
You would be shocked at who is extremely close to Rod Radcliffe. You would be shocked. If he is, in fact, the target, this is going to get extremely messy.
And we'll watch it. We're going to follow it. By the way, I thought this was John. Could you throw up this photo that was in the Washington Post? I mean, if I was Charlie Brown, I'd
bullshit.
be pissed.
Charlie Brown is a Democrat, African American county councilman from Gary.
Yeah, he used to be a state rep.
Longtime state rep.
Wait,
He's a
what?
Democrat.
Yeah.
This photo?
No, the one in the note, John.
Oh shit!
The very
I'm
bottom-
sorry.
the very
I don't
bottom
think
of the note.
I don't think I saw that. And
Oh
put it in.
God.
In the front page of the Washington Post, they have Eberhardt pleads guilty to fraud. It says state rep pleads guilty to fraud or something like that. And they got a picture of Eberhardt talking to Charlie
And
Brown.
it doesn't even have a
No.
caption. Is it, John? Can you bring it up or no?
Yeah.
It doesn't
Give me
even
a
have a
second.
caption as to like who's who.
No, you don't know. You're just like. And by the way, Eberhardt is the one that's targeted, the white gentleman who's standing there. And Charlie Brown's the one sitting in the state rep
Correct.
chair. You would definitely think Charlie Brown's the one that got
You're like,
indicted. with
who's
that.
this guy that got indicted?
Poor
If you-
freaking Charlie Brown
I
sitting there
know.
minding his own business. Now people across America think he's getting indicted because
Thanks,
of stupid
WAPO.
Washington Post hanging him out.
So I don't know. I don't know if John can bring it up. He'll bring it up. But I saw that article in the Washington Post and I was like, wait a minute, who's
Here.
like? Look at this.
Yeah, it's a horrible. Charlie
Okay,
Brown, sit it down.
Read the title. Read the
Former
headline.
Indiana legislator agrees to plead guilty to fraud and casino corruption scheme. Charlie's got the legislator ID on his chest. Charlie's sitting in the seat, in a legislator seat. Sean Eberhardt looks like the guy lobbying him.
Yeah.
And
his-
Eberhardt's the one that's charged, and poor Charlie Brown just got sucked into this picture.
Yeah,
Why
his
did-
face is showing the most.
For
This
sure.
one's just the side.
Yeah, Eberhardt, you can't even see his face. The guy that gets charged, and Charlie Brown's like, this corrupt politician. It's like, what the hell?
It's like poor Charlie Brown, right? It's
Charlie
like,
got
damn,
screwed,
Charlie.
man. Washington Post, like national picture. What a bunch of crap, man.
All right. Well, this is not the last time we're going to talk about that story. I think
No,
there's going to be
it's
many
not.
more onion peels in that one.
Hey, we got a Hoosier coming on as our next guest.
Yes.
A famous Hoosier.
Looking forward to this.
Silouan Green is the host of the Pilgrim's Odyssey podcast and is a nationally recognized speaker on trauma and overcoming adversity. He lectures on PTSD, peer support, resilient leadership.
And he's got an amazing story. I mean, this is we wanted to have somebody on for Veterans Day. Locomotive was out of town celebrating Veterans Day. And we wanted to, we wanted Silouan on last Friday, but instead we wanted to make sure he was here when Tom was here. So it's a really good story. He's got an amazing, kind of just harrowing journey from kind of the depths and darkness that he was in after a tragic situation in the Marines. He's going to talk about that, and we're going to get him on.
Yeah, we're going to tell his whole story before he gets here.
No, I mean, I want to keep a
No,
little
that's
bit
right.
of a
yeah.
carrot.
No, we're lucky to have this guy. He's a nationally
Yeah.
recognized speaker on Lockpod. So let's do some ads. We'll come back with Silouan. So start off with Prestonmer Insurance Agency. For decades, the Ron J. Prestonmer Insurance Agency has been your trusted neighbor right on Indianapolis Boulevard, serving all your insurance needs. Their wide range of insurance products and services, including auto, home, business, and life insurance, has helped over 1,000 individuals and businesses throughout the Chicagoland and Midwest. Call Ron or Ronnie today at 219-844-0103. They're here to protect what matters most to you.
Byway Brewing, a family-friendly microbrewery, welcomes you to their spacious tap room and outdoor patio. Enjoy award-winning craft beer, chef-driven menu, and craft draft cocktails. Their unique brewing equipment and production facility provide a perfect backdrop for private events, whether it's a bridal shower, reunion, or corporate party. With their new food truck, they can cater your corporate and private events off-site. Customer service is their top priority at Byway Brewing, just off of 8094 at the Kennedy Avenue South exit. Discover more at bywaybrewing.beer.
Are you currently navigating complex legal challenges, unsure of where to turn for guidance? Your search ends here with Kuklakis Law, your trusted partner for legal solutions in Indiana and Illinois. Whether you're seeking expert representation for real estate transactions, need assistance in forming your business, or have experienced a personal injury at work or in a car crash, Kuklakis Law is here for you. No matter the nature of your legal issue, their team is ready to help. Call Kuklakis Law today at 219-671-6347 to schedule your free consultation. Hablamos Español.
Rogers Roofing. When you demand nothing but the best for your home and family, trust the industry leader, Rogers Roofing. For over 54 years, they've been transforming homes in Northwest Indiana and Chicagoland. Their commitment to quality shines through in their roofing, siding, gutters, and windows, all backed by the most comprehensive warranties in the business. Visit our website at rogersroofing.com or call 219-933-9145 to schedule your free consultation. That's rogersroofing.com or 933-9145. And remember, at Rogers Roofing, excellence is expected every time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not very often we get to introduce authors and United States Marines, right after Veterans Day on LockPod. So I'm very proud and honored to introduce Silouan Green, the host of the Pilgrim's Odyssey. Nice to meet you, sir.
Hey, bud. Nice to meet you.
Happy Veterans Day.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for coming up
Yeah.
live. We thought you were just going to Skype in, and here
Well,
you are.
Steve twisted my arm.
Did he?
Yeah, he's very
So,
persuasive, that guy.
I hadn't seen him for a while, so I thought I'd drive up.
Oh, you guys are buds?
Yeah, I've known him for a while, and then I don't get to go to the region a lot.
That's a reason for the trip.
I was born at a Methodist Hospital in Gary.
Nice.
When my parents were living in Crown Point. My dad, when he was a kid, lived in Hammond.
Awesome.
And then I went to high school in LaPorte.
Wow, and
And
you
then-
still got that
You're a
like
reason,
Southern
right?
Indiana twang going. So
Well,
where'd you get that from?
Well, my mom is from Mississippi.
All right, there you go.
So I spent the summers as a kid in Mississippi, so I got a lot of y'alls.
Dude.
See
I
that.
got a lot of y'alls coming out of my mouth.
I spent my summers here my whole life. I'm from California, but I've spent my entire summers here, and I ended up moving
Did you
here.
really?
Yeah, man. I
Oh,
have
wow.
the same exact story backwards.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually it's the other way. You're going to California.
Yeah, it's weird, though, because so did you join? Yeah, I hear that a lot, funny enough. Yeah,
That's a Led Zeppelin song, too.
yeah, going
It
to
is.
California.
It is.
Going to California with a making it.
Oh, I didn't know we were
going
going to hear you
Yeah.
a
That's
cappella
right.
today.
Dad's
Absolutely.
singing again.
How old were you when you joined the Marines?
I was out of college. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were you an officer?
Yeah, I was an officer. So I went to Vanderbilt down in Nashville and saw like a recruiting poster and
Good for you, man.
Commodores.
thought it would be cool.
What
And-
year? Do you mind?
What's that? 91.
91 you
Yeah,
joined? So
yeah.
we were in... right around the same-
92, actually. It's 92.
You joined, okay, so I was getting out in 93, so
Okay.
I did 88. We're about the same age.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, I graduated 87.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But so where were you stationed?
I was kind of all over the place. I was a pilot. Honestly, I didn't do much. I was just, went in training.
Pilots in the military are like top dogs.
Yeah,
but-
I was in training.
You're like,
and then
yeah, but-
then I went to the RAG. But then
All right, what's a WAG?
it's where you learn the plane you're going to fly,
Okay.
kind of thing. And then I was in a crash, and I broke my back. And
You're in a plane crash.
Yeah. So then I was in.
This is a good story.
So then I was in a hospital for like 2 years.
You're just like skipping over the cool parts.
Yeah.
You're like, I was in a plane
Well-
crash, and then after that,
Well,
it's like,
people died, so I don't really like
oh my
talking.
God,
I don't
I'm so
really like
sorry.
talking about
Was it like a big plane or was it a small plane? Or?
No, we were just training. It was over here. It was just we were practicing like carrier landings
I'm really
out
sorry.
in Oceania, and we're like shuttling planes, and it was just it was actually kind of a funny story because it was one of those things like a lot of times when they're not sure what happened, they just go pilot error. And you're like,
Right.
well, man, I was there. I'm not sure what the error was, and probably 20 years after it happened, I was at Camp Atterbury in southern Indiana. I was doing a talk, and there was this unit from, I think was it Utah? Yeah, they were Utah. And they were in charge of all the drones. It was like this National Guard unit that flies all the drones. And so they're getting ready to go over to Afghanistan, and I'm talking to them. And the commander, who's like a lieutenant colonel, he's like, man, I know you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, man, I was doing such and such when that happened, because he was a pilot before we got into drones. And he's like, yeah, man, after that happened, they downed all the planes, and they had all these safety things. And, they told us that the trim tab of the jet had like gone uncontrollable and made you like hit the deck and blah, blah, blah.
Oh my
and
God.
I didn't know it because I was in the hospital. I was out of it. Like I was,
Wow.
and then once they couldn't really get me better, and I was in the hospital all the time, I just didn't even look at. I just ignored it. It was.
So you were just like, you didn't even want to look at flying.
I didn't. It was just because they. I broke my back, and
So you ejected.
Yeah, I
Is
ejected.
that what broke your? Is that what broke your?
Well,
back?
what broke my back is we ejected, and I was like sideways and about 10 feet off the ground, and so my parachute opened, but I didn't get like a full swing, and so it just like hit me into the ground, and that's kind of.
So when they told you about the trim tab, was that like a situation where you?
That was like 20 years later.
Yeah, and was that something that changed the way that you looked at the crash, or did it change the way?
It did in a little, but it had been so long. I mean, it did, but it didn't, because it had been so long. You know what I mean? Like I kind of like.
So they never gave you that peace of mind that it wasn't your fault.
No, and
So
I mean,
you're just like carrying this with you the whole time. You
yeah,
didn't
pretty
realize-
much. It pretty much sucked. And I mean, even though at the time, like I was there, I knew what happened.
I know you did.
I knew,
but like
yeah.
the other people are looking at you like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
you messed
well,
up. Right?
and I mean, I hate saying it, but especially like military investigations, like, you know, the guy that died, his family was going after the ejection seat manufacturer. And, you know, it's a weird, plus, you know, when you're that young and you're that age, you're just of the mindset, you know, it's kind of like I think about now, you know, the last few years, just, you know, people arguing over like vaccines and all this stuff. Man, you're in the military. It's like, here's my arm, shoot me up.
Which is what you said that on the podcast.
Dude, we get like 5 at one time. You're like, I know, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I don't want number 4.
Yeah,
Get the fuck out of here, right? Excuse my language.
No, but you know, but everything's that way. You know, it's just kind of like yes sir, no sir. You know, that's the way it is. And so, you know, they come in and they tell you what's what, and you just kind of deal with it. And then, you know, I think, you know, the hardest part was because, you know, I wasn't at war. You know, I didn't. There's part of me I didn't feel like worthy of like going, I need help. You know what I mean? Or you know, it's just, and so that whole process. By
the way, PTSD is a totally different thing than it was when you and I were in, bud.
Oh yeah.
Nobody
totally.
said PTSD when we were in.
Well, nobody did. Well, and it was, you know, like one of the stories I talk about is, so basically, just a long story short, the Navy tried to get me all fixed, and then they ended up sending me to Wilford Hall Medical Center in San Antonio, which at that time specialized in like flight injuries. And so I'm there, and that's when they decided.
Was it more physical or mental at this point?
It was both. It was because
so your back was jacked up, and you were dealing with.
And I had nerve damage. I like pee on myself.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I had bladder dysfunction. That was that was the official.
So hard.
Oh yeah, it sucked.
How old were you? So you're like
25, you know, something like that.
Jesus.
And
see, like you gave for your country, bud. That is incredible.
Well, I don't. I just don't like talking about it, just because there's so many guys that did. You know, to me, what I've done to try to help is what I did after. Like at the time, like there's so many guys that did so much more. But at least I got a taste of like, you know, those that serve that don't get the help they need. Why? And like what that kind of leaves them with when they get out.
So I was reading like your bio. I was really impressed, by the way. And one of the things that I want you to talk about, because one of the reasons we have you here is kind of your journey. It seemed like you hit pretty dark places. And your journey from there kind of to where you are now, helping people kind of get out of that spiral. Yeah. If you could.
Well, I think the darkest place was just, you know, you're a young man, you dream of doing something that people dream of doing, you're doing it. And then, you know, right as you're getting into it, boom, it all gets taken away. And I think that's your total identity. Like that's who you are. And then it's gone.
Military pilot.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. You know,
worked your ass off to get there.
Yeah. But then,
it's like Dad's dream position in the military.
I ended up in the damn submarine. I wanted to be a pilot.
There you go. Submarine. There you go. And you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, they're like, okay, you're damaged. We don't need you anymore. And you've done so much to get there. Then you're going, okay, now what am I? And I'm still dealing with pain. And at the time, like,
did they like pension you out or anything? Did you get like disability from the
military? Yeah.
So good. I mean,
I'm taking care
of medical.
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
Like I'm not trying to get into detail.
No. But
I'm hoping at least they took care of you.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff they did right by me. I'm, you know, and they've taken care of me ever since. I'm not complaining about that. But you know what to do with yourself after,
right?
Not so much.
Because you didn't have, well, you already were you were a graduate of college already.
Yeah.
What was your degree in? Not that
math. I was a math major.
Okay.
I was a math major at Vanderbilt.
Wow.
And so I kind of had to figure it out on my own. So like, you know, so I leave and honestly, like, you know, I look back now, but it's kind of like the way I describe it is I kind of had a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder. And I really just, I wanted to be dead because I had survivor's guilt. I felt like I was a failure. I was in pain all the time. I'm still in pain all the time. And I took off on this motorcycle, ended up being gone almost like 2 years, had a gun with me the whole time. Many moments, I'm like, maybe I'll put the gun to my head and just end it. I mean, I'd be in a cool place and it'd feel great. And I'm like, okay, I like feeling great. I don't want to feel bad again. Maybe I'll just do it here. But I just kept going. And, you know, through that, you know, kind of found a reason to live, kind of a new identity.
Saw you met your wife on the road.
Yeah, met my wife doing that, which is, you know, a whole other story in itself. But long story short, it's basically I replaced the identity of, being this Marine with, I want to help people going through the same thing. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But, I just started going anywhere I could. I mean, the first place, I spoke and trained was over 20 years ago, and it was in maximum security prison here in Indiana in Pendleton. And I started going and talking to prisoners, because somebody was like, they're broke and no one comes to talk to them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'll go in there. So I just started like going in and like hanging out with people that, I thought I had nothing in common with. One of the first things I did, I think they were screwing with me. It's I went in and I'm like this white boy from the cornfields of like LaPorte, grew up baling hay, and they put me in and they just done some like gang crackdown or something from all the prisons, and they brought them into this one prison. And so they bring all these guys in, and it's all these, African American guys from the hood, and they're all looking at me and they're literally making fun of me, going, "You gonna sing us country songs?" And, and I'm sitting there, oh God, what do I do? But man, I just started talking to them, and I had my guitar and I started singing songs, and by the end of it, there was no like color, there was no like identity. It was just we were human beings.
That's how it is in the military.
Yeah, it totally is.
Right?
Yeah, it totally is.
Nobody talks about color or race or nothing. You just, like you said, you just listen to people and try not to get yelled at.
Yeah, you're a Marine, and
right.
and in that moment, with those men in the prison, we were just some people that had been through some bad stuff, in different ways, and that really, that even though today the funny thing is, most of my speaking is like to veterans and first responders and cops who put them in prison. There ain't much difference, man. If I'm doing a training with a law enforcement officer who's in a dark place, he got there a different way than that guy I met all those years ago. But once you're there, man, it's real simple.
Silouan, we have that problem a lot. I mean, I have 210 Hammond police officers that work for me. As you know, Steve is a Hammond police officer, and we have officers all the time that, get therapy and talk to
one of
people.
the things the mayor's done is had a wellness officer now. They didn't ever had that.
Oh,
right?
that's cool.
So which is a good thing. And we've got that. But I was going to ask you, I noticed, well, first of all, congratulations on 9 kids. That's pretty amazing.
What?
But
I know how that happens.
Very fertile.
Usually the joke is, how that happens? I'm like, yes, very well.
But I was reading
no one ever said their marriage had too much sex.
I was reading about Ladder Up a little bit. And so am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Ladder Up. Okay,
100%.
so how did you get so you start with this thing in the prison. That's your first speaking engagement. And now you're doing this nationwide.
Yeah, all
and
over.
Trying to help not only, like you mentioned, veterans, first responders, addicts. Tell us a little bit about the program.
I've done corporations. I've done Facebook. I've done PayPal. They're executives, things like that. Well, basically, again, it started in that prison. So I'm sitting there, and I came up to Michigan City once, and I'm doing all this with these prisoners. And at some point, I'm like, man, I'm sick of kind of just like telling stories and trying to be motivating. I'm like, what can I actually give them, especially the ones that are getting out, can use? And so I kind of process through my head, like what was the journey I took to get better. And then as I did that, I kind of had a mentor when I was at Vanderbilt, Dr. Volnai Gay, and he's retired now basically, but at the time he was like the director of psychology and religious studies at Vanderbilt, and I took a bunch of psych classes with him, and he's kind of a mentor of mine. And so I started communicating with him a little bit, like, I'm trying to put in words what I think my head did to get better. And he just kind of made sure I wasn't doing anything stupid. And then I took it and turned it into kind of like a self-reflection peer tool. But it was basically, life gets complicated. You get the fog of life, and people kind of lose track of, where am I going? Like there was a study done during COVID. People were bored and doing all these studies. And they did one that something like 70% of Americans, when they reach their late 20s, go on cruise control for decades. Because it's all like, I got to go to school. I got to get this job.
Got my goal.
Yeah.
And then it's like cruise control. And but trauma hits you and you're on cruise control. Then you're like, okay, where am I going? You feel like you're out of control. And so I started developing it with these prisoners, and then started doing it in the military. And then I had like the military mental health people vet it, and they started using it, like Fort Campbell and Fort Bragg. I did a IRB board at Indiana University down in Bloomington. And then that, kind of became a vehicle for getting more speaking engagements. And then once that momentum started, then it was really just word of mouth. I got a website and I do stuff, but most of it is just people, they've seen me speak and they go, hey, I need you to come here and do this.
How often do you speak? on the road?
Oh man, every week.
Would you consider like most of your speaking like motivational, like getting people pumped up, like you said, corporate stuff, or do you feel that you also, I mean, not you, do you also talk to folks that are like kind of that are down?
I'd say most of it is training.
Okay.
I would say most of it is, I do like Department of Homeland Security. I do the Pentagon, California Highway Patrol. I mean, most of it is training. And then what usually happens, this is like inside business from speakers. You speak at a conference, you see the decision makers. They go, "Oh, that's good. You should train my people." And then you come in. So the good part is I don't just get to do the motivational stuff, but I actually get to go work hands-on with the people that need it. And, for instance, so like yesterday in Ohio, they've got this thing called PELC, and pretty much it's a statewide training. And in law enforcement, if you're going to go sergeant or above in most of those agencies, you need to go through PELC, and it's like 3 weeks throughout a year. And I do this part of it for the state.
That's a good idea, man.
Yeah, for the state. But
if you're going to be like senior administrator,
100%. Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
because you have to. Everybody in the state has to have a certain level of training.
I think it's a great idea
It's a great idea.
because training is so inconsistent.
There's nothing like that in Indiana.
Oh, nothing.
Right.
I mean, and training is so
Shocking.
training is so inconsistent from department to department. as you go around.
Right.
You get small departments, big departments, big cities, small towns.
100%. But there in Ohio, and they have PELC and they have STEP, and it's like for different ranks. But PELC is the one. It's sort of like you got ambitions to kind of go up the chain. But it's nice because through that, for instance, like I met a guy who was a sergeant who became a chief. And as a chief, he implemented most of the mental health stuff I recommend that they do.
Cool, man.
That's really cool.
And then he's the one that then recommended me for like 3 other things. So that's kind of how it's grown.
So if you're out there and if you're listening to this show or you're watching us on Facebook Live, right? I mean, what would your advice be to somebody who might be in that dark place right now?
Force yourself to get connected with another human being, and I don't care who it is. I don't care. I don't care if it is a friend you haven't seen in a long time, if it's a church down the street, if it's Firehouse. I don't care. Get connected with somebody because the term I use in life, you get this lonely logic, and one of the reasons I believe that mental health stuff is worse today. It's because we're more disconnected. You came home from World War II. You saw a lot more death and destruction. You didn't kill yourself like you did today because you still had a lot of friends around you to kind of, pull your head out of your butt, so to speak. You know what I mean? We're now, we move so much. We travel so much. We're disconnected from our families. We just have fewer people that in those dark moments that we don't think we can get out of ourselves.
These things, right?
Yeah.
You just sit on a corner and do this all day.
Which is not the same thing as like,
absolutely.
Sitting here and talking. And, when I do my trainings, I've trained municipalities, I've trained all sorts. I'm like, you got to get your people more connected. Like, you got to get, face to face.
I force my staff to get together every week.
Yeah, you have to.
And we all talk about, and even though somebody from the law department's hearing stuff about Hammond Housing Authority or something like that, it's good we all know what everybody's doing.
100%. Well, because to me, it's not just a mental, there's not just a mental health crisis with veterans and first responders. It's everybody. If you look, the World Health Organization, they keep suicide statistics around the world. And if you look from like 2020 to today, most of the world suicide and stuff is better just because around the world, most countries have gotten more money and they've got more resources. And there's one glaring exception to that. And it's the United States where suicide's like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And I think part of it, man, we argue so much, we point fingers so much.
Man.
We're just so divided and disconnected.
Isn't it crazy?
It is crazy.
As a veteran, it just pisses me off.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, dude, I gave 6 years of my life for this country.
100%.
And just see people pissing on it.
I just think it's interesting. There's
but it's also like what you said too. It's like when you serve like that, you're friends with everybody. You know what I mean? Like,
what's weird?
And you can have an argument and like, it's kind of like your brother. Like you can have an argument, I can punch you in the face, but we're still going to get a beer later.
You know what's crazy? So like my buddies in the military, I'm a Democrat, they're mostly Republican, but we never talked about it, right?
Yeah.
And now since we've gotten out and we're all like Facebook friends and stuff, I noticed that a lot of them defriended me because I'm a Democrat. And like over the years, they're like, hey man, we can't be friends anymore.
Literally defriended you.
Yeah, man. Like
See, that's
crazy.
what. See, actually,
Isn't that crazy? Because they were, all due respect to former president, but they're like, I'm a Democrat.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're all Trumpers, and
Yeah.
then they would be like pissed at me because I'm not part of the team.
Yeah.
And they like literally defriended me.
Well, it's funny you said that, like, because one of the challenges of doing this over the years is I have done a lot of work with two groups that, especially their politics, are completely opposite.
Good for you, man.
Because I've done a lot, like people, like social stuff, working with the homeless, working with prisoners, mental health people that, tend to be liberal and Democrat. And then a lot of first responders and a lot of veterans that tend to be.
Doesn't that tell you, though, that the problem's kind of, they're across the political spectrum? Doesn't matter if you're
100%.
About this far left or this far right, you're still going to have mental health problems. You're still going to have PTSD. You're still going to have people that are in those dark places that need help.
Yeah, 100%.
So if people are out there looking to either get in touch with you or read one of your books or, look into Ladder Up or just look into you.
And there's an app too, right?
Well, actually, you know what? Let me. This might be something that, as the mayor that's going to be cool. But first of all, go to my website, Silouan.com, Silouan.com. But I actually have a meeting after this. I got hooked up with another veteran who's a disabled veteran like me. He's younger, big tech guy. And we got hooked up with the Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs and the National Guard. And for them and working with them, it was kind of like my idea and the IDVA's idea. We are now creating an app, and we're probably going to launch in the next month or two. And then we're going to focus on a couple of counties. Man, I'd love to do it up here around in this area. And basically what it's going to be is a really simple app. I'm simplifying what it would be. But let's say I'm a veteran and I live in Hammond. I get the app. I click on Hammond. And then I click on anything I'm interested in as a veteran. And then it shows you vetted businesses in the area that provide those resources.
That's very cool.
So so it's off of Google, it's off of the VA site, it's vetted, it's not people taking advantage of them. And the IDVA has all these people around the state, that work with communities doing that. So the IDVA representative in this area will be the one that goes through, vets the businesses, vets the resources, and then long term, what we want to use it for is a way to connect vets and try to get them together personally in their community, face to face, and now they got a resource to do it.
That's great. Like a virtual VFW.
Kind of, yeah.
Virtual American Legion.
That's actually, but that's actually a good way to look at it. I mean, it's kind of, a virtual VFW for but also, I really like the vetted part because you know how that is.
Yeah.
So many people use that whole veteran angle, and they don't care about the vet.
And these are trusted places.
Yeah, it's totally what it'll be.
Yeah. Silouan, thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure to meet you, man. Thanks.
Thanks for what you guys are doing up here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What part of Indiana are you from?
I am.
Where do you live?
I am
now?
outside of Kokomo. We
Gotcha.
bought
Nice
my wife
area.
and I found the old farmhouse on
Good
a
for
bunch
you,
of
man.
land in a creek.
Beautiful.
Let the
Something
kids
like that.
run like squirrels.
Nice part of the country, man.
But,
a nice part of the state.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for what you do.
Thank you,
Happy
brother.
post Veterans Day.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. Both you guys.
Hoorah.
Hoorah! All right, good.
All right.
Hoorah.
All
Wrap
right.
it up.
Thanks, man. Thanks to the Compass. I love that nickname, and so Kevin's our Compass.
Ah.
He's,
Yeah.
thanks, Kevin. Good to see you, man. Lynn's good to see you, babe. Thanks for coming back on.
Peace out.
Jay Vez, another flawless performance, and Steve, great for bringing in a great
Charlie
guest.
Brown.
There he
Appreciate it.
is.
Steve is doing a good job as our manager,
Wow.
bringing in great
There he
guests.
was.
So, but coming to you live, season 10, episode 20. This is Mayor Tom saying thank you for listening. The Locomotive and signing out. We'll be back on Friday. We have a guest on Friday, or we?
No, we're
Nope.
solo.
Just us.
Just
So
hanging
thanks
out.
everybody for listening to Lockpod.